Good morning from Brazil. Welcome, everybody. We are starting another lecture of OIC, International Organization of Conscientiotherapy, today with the topic Lucid Detachment. I am Regina Esterman, OIC volunteer and conscientiotherapist. During the talk, you can ask questions through the chat. I will try to answer them as the presentation goes on. The second one. So before we start the them itself, it's important to mention some warnings. OIC activities do not replace or eliminate potential medical or psychological needs. The institution recommends, whenever it proves necessary, to seek out qualified health professionals for the specific attendances accredited by official boards. OIC does not indicate nominatively any specialist. Here we have the principle of disbelief present in all activities of conscientiology. Do not believe in anything, not even in what we inform in this activity. Experiment, have your own personal experiences. Therefore, it's important that each one makes their own conclusions, also from what is said in this lecture, through their own experiences. Here we have the main topics of the lecture today: anachronistic attachment and healthy affection, the inevitable losses and the evolutionary dynamics, self-conscientiotherapy applied to lucid detachment. Detachment is understood in this context as knowing how to let go things, behaviors, people without suffering, without selfishness, under an expanded vision, understanding the reason for the choice, for the option of detachment, because it's a matter of choice. It means choosing to detach in a lucid way. It's interesting to mention here the definition of lucidity in Hua's dictionary. It is the capacity to someone to understand, to know, and how to learn about a certain reality. This is the idea, and specifically here, under the perspective of the consciential paradigm, the paradigm that fundaments the new science conscientiology, which was founded in 1988 by Professor Waldo Vieira, and is based on some pillars. I will mention some of them. One of them is multidimensionality. It means we interact with some dimensions, the intraphysical one where we are now, and the extraphysical dimension where we are going when we die or when we desommate. Desoma is a neologism that we use to explain this process, this transition process. It means the activation of the soma. So we interact with these dimensions. Bioenergetics, it's another pillar. It means we exchange energies with people and environments all the time, although sometimes we are not aware of it. Another pillar is multivehicularity. It means we manifest ourselves through 4 vehicles of manifestation. Soma is the physical body, energosoma is the energetic body, psychosoma is our emotional body, and mental soma is our mental body. Multi-existentiality, as a consciousness in evolution, we had past lives, and we will have future lives in a evolution process. And also cosmoethics. It means the great ethics that governs the evolution of the universe. Therefore, it is from this perspective of the consciential paradigm that we will approach detachment, understanding this process in the sense of lucid evolutionary donation, going out of ourselves to the other, to the context, or in the sense of interassistance, which we will discuss a little more about later. Here we have the definition of attachment. The word attachment originates from the combination of the letter A plus take. This derives from the Latin picar, to grab, to have new. And then you have three mini definitions. Affectionate connection, affection, esteem, constant and excessive dedication to something or someone, feeling of sympathy for someone or something. This definition is also from Huay's dictionary. So in these mini concepts, we have one which is more pathological, and another one which is healthier. We can understand that the constitution of bonds or of affective ties is part of the human condition, referring here, for example, to the intraphysical dimension. When the baby is born, it needs to constitute a bond with a person who is concerned with him to ensure his survival. And the evolution of consciousness is also done in groups or is enhanced when we are with other people, because we can learn about ourselves when we are in relation to others. We can see other possibilities to be, we can see other possibilities to act, learning with the other examples. Therefore, it's important to build or to constitute healthy bonds throughout the existences we have, or that we develop what we call interdependence among these relationships. On the other hand, it's important to learn how to detach from people, things, situation in a lucid way. So we have these both sides. Yeah, we need to constitute bonds because it's necessary to our mental healthy, to our emotional healthy. But at the same time, we need also to learn how to detach. Yeah. So it's part of our maturity, because separation or separations, even if temporary, are inevitable considering the It's okay. As an illustration, we can also mention, imagine when we are in an astrophysical dimension and we are preparing to resoma, to have another soma. We need to separate from the environment or from the consciousnesses that we have relation there to resonate, and the opposite is true. When we decimate and when we are going to extraphysical dimension, we need to separate from the environments and people we have relation here in the intraphysical dimension. So from both situations, it's important to learn how to detach, because it occurs anyway. And analyzing the development of bonds or affective ties, it's possible to identify that a large of pathologies and parapathologies, it means from consciousnesses that are already in extraphysical dimension, are resulting of these unhealthy or pathological ties, and often of the difficulty of detaching in a rational, mature, and lucid way. Here we have some aspects about the difference between the two concepts. So the first one, anachronistic attachment, when excessive, emotional, irrational, causing or resulting in interpretation between consciousnesses, situations, or objects. Talking a little about this first one. So it is the outdated or anti-evolutionary form of attachment that imprisons the person. When the attachment has this characteristic, normally the person finds itself monopolized, that is attached of what he or she has lost or had to leave behind. The person finds itself constantly thinking about the loss or stuck to the past. Often we do not realize the quality of level of attachment to something or someone until we need to separate from them. We can measure the quality of the relationship through the emotions that manifest when there is a separation or when we are in a loss process. Is there suffering, anger, denial, excessive sadness, hopelessness, depression? Of course, there is a normal process, a normal feeling that manifests when we need to separate from someone who we have an affection or from something which we have a connection. But we can analyze the level of the emotion, if it's pathological, or the level of the pathology, for example, making some questions. It is exacerbated. How long does it remain in the person's mind, in the vicinity? Days, weeks, months, years, lives? So often the difficulty in knowing how to let go can cause the avoidance of constituting a relationship. The fear of loss can influence the person to deepen our relationship, and the tendency is for them to be superficial. Perhaps it's interesting to mention a paradox here. The easier and healthier the detachment is, the easier is also to establish a relationship, or the deeper they can be, because there is no more the fear of loss. Or another way to say this, the more we are afraid of losing someone or something, the more it will be difficult to detach of them. So conscientiotherapy, for example, can help us in these cases to understand or to measure the level of the attachment, and if it is pathological, how to transform into a healthy one. And healthy affection, when constituting necessary and intelligent bonds and affections, resulting in altruism, interassistance, and evolutionary interdependence. So it is the construction of a necessary and expected bond, which is part, as we said before, is part of the life, but at the same time, it's important to be healthy, altruistic, caring for the other, and when there is a need to separation, regardless of the reason, it is accepted and accepted in a rational and comprehensive way, aiming the best for the context in general, and not aiming to fulfill the egoic wishes of the person. I think there is a question here. Interesting subject. Regina, could you give an example about anachronistic attachment? Yeah, in this lecture, we will talk a little about this, but we can only mention here as a quickly. For example, a person who maintains the feeling of hurt or resentment. It is a kind of attachment that don't help in our evolution process, but most people have difficulty to understand this process and to detach from this kind of feeling. But we will discuss a little more about it later, okay? So the next slide, please. In this slide, we mentioned and we have some kind of attachments. Somatic self-image. It is the attachment in this way. I will say an attachment to the soma, or to the physical body, by vanity or by idealization of the image, sometimes leading people to make aesthetic interventions that could compromise their own life. We can see situation like this, some situations like this. And at the time of the soma, as we said before, the activation of the body, the soma will be decomposed, and considering or in according to consciential paradigm, in the next resoma or reborn, we will have another body and another somatic image. So it's an attachment that we need to understand better. One side, of course, is the care to the appearance or the healthy maintenance of the body, also because it is our instrument of manifestation while we are in the intraphysical dimension. Another side is the attachment and excess of vanity due to ignorance or unawareness of the evolutionary condition. Behaviors. Many times the person is attached to behaviors, traits, making it difficult to recycle or to change, and they do not want to let them go because they are getting used to them. For example, an authoritarian behavior. The person does not want to give up the control, the power of command, to the possibility to impose his or her will. The opposite position is also interesting to mention. The submissive or passive person, afraid to say no or to displease the other, to create some conflicts. Some evolutionists, for example, start to notice that this behavior is not good for him or for her, being authoritarian or being passive. So it's perhaps when we feel that something is getting wrong, it's perhaps the moment to ask, what's the reason for the attachment? Why is it so difficult to change or to leave this kind of behavior? So conscientiotherapy can help in these cases. Beliefs. It's also a quite common type of attachment present in conscientiotherapy, for example, and we can mention two biases. Attachment to the self-concept, it's different from self-image. Yeah, the person understands or becomes convinced that he or she has certain characteristics or manifestations that are immutable. There is also the belief in ideologies, religions, that are sometimes imposed or are part of education, mesology, culture, or conditioning, and the person does not want to let them go, sometimes because they want to maintain the sense of belonging to a group, or because they do not want to argue with someone, avoiding conflicts or confrontation, for example. In these cases, it's interesting to analyze whether the person manifests what we call paradigm conflict syndrome. It means the difficulty to change the paradigm that the person had before, and he or she wants to change, but it's difficult to do this transition. We have an article about them, and we have also a verbate in the OIC conscientiotherapy dictionary. Of course, they are in Portuguese, but it's possible to translate if someone has interest in this topic or wants to research more about. Material objects, attachment to material objects or things, or also to money. The person forgets that when they leave this intraphysical dimension, they will not take anything with them. Also that this attachment can keep them stuck here in an intraphysical dimension. This kind of attachment interfere in our lucidity. So sometimes the consciousness is already in an extraphysical dimension, but without the awareness that they are there, and it means that they don't have more the biological body, the physical body, but they are still energetically speaking connected to what was left behind. Also, the attachment to people could be by selfishness, by needness, by a sense of possession, by fear of being alone, by difficulty in forgiving. All these conditions can cause interpretation between consciousnesses. Power, it's also a kind of attachment. The consciousness becomes attached to the power, and this condition can generate what we call the ostracism syndrome. It means the fear of losing the power and being forgotten by others. There is also a book about them, and also a verbiage in our dictionary, conscientiotherapy dictionary. And social status or position, the person reaches a position or a social status that he or she does not want to leave or to give up for secondary gains, or what we call pseudo gains. For example, vanity, pride, external attention that he or she thinks they need to receive in order to feel or to be valued. I'd like to see if there is more questions. No, it's okay. These in the slide before are some attachment postures that can compromise the healthy evolution of the consciousness. Oh, sorry. Can you? Okay, so again. Okay. Here we have an expression from Professor Waldo Vieira from the book Homo sapiens pacificus. Loss is the act or effect of losing or depriving yourself of something that you had before, leading to feelings of decreased quality and excellence in human life. So making a correlation between attachment and loss, the greater the attachment is, or the more this attachment serves the egoic process of the consciousness, the greater the difficulty with loss interfere in the quality of life of the consciousness. The next one, yeah. Here we have some situations or conditions which are common to all of us in relation to losses that occur during the life. So I have mentioned some here. Yeah? Projects, power, changes, location, job, social condition, illnesses, aging, relationships, separation, the soma of a loved one. The proposal is to understand these conditions from the perspective of the consciential paradigm, amplifying the comprehension about them. I am not going to talk about them here. the intention to bring these topics is only to show that almost all of them are situations or conditions that we pass through in our many lives, emphasizing here that loss is part of our evolutionary process. Therefore, it's important to learn how to handle, how to deal with. That's important to mention in relation to attachment. I have said a little about this before. It's an expression from also from Professor Waldo Vieira from the book Homo sapiens reurbanizatus. Parapathological attachment leads many newly detached conscients to remain in old homes in the manner of intruders. So some consciousnesses who are already in an extraphysical dimension and are too much attached to things or people from the intraphysical dimension can remain connected and influencing them here, acting as an intruder and sometimes not noticing this because they are not lucid enough to perceive these conditions. So the best posture is avoiding evocation from both dimensions. From the people that are here in relation to the consciousnesses that are already decimated, and from the consciousnesses that are decimated or that are in a extraphysical dimension to evocate the consciousness or the people that are in intraphysical dimension. Yeah. So the more lucid we are, the more we understand the importance of healthy detachment, because when we have healthy affection and the healthy detachment, it helps us to improve our lucidity here and there. It means in extraphysical dimension. And it helps us not to be imprisoned. Yes? Imprisoned. Okay. Since losses are, I would like to see if there are some questions. Not, it's okay. Since losses are part of the evolution process, let us make in an evolutionary way. Evolution is dynamic and cyclical. Dynamic. It is in constant movement. The universe does not stop. Whatever happens, the night comes and the sun will shine again in the next day. So the idea is that we are also dynamic, considering our evolution or in a evolutionary sense. Yeah. In other words, it's important not keeping unnecessary attachments, stagnant behaviors, or staying stuck to the past, people or situations that we cannot change. The proposal is to do different, being open to the new, to new possibilities, or being dynamic in our evolution, or thinking about evolution in a cosmoetic way, or interexistence. Our tendency anyway is to remain attached to what is familiar, could be people, places, situation, but this condition can lead us to the sameness, or to what we call self-mimesis. It means repeating what we already know, or what we have done or do, maintaining the attachment. Of course, we are talking here about the feelings, or the behaviors, feelings, emotions that are pathological, or that are not helping us more in our evolutionary process. Okay. Evolution is cyclical. Here referring to the cycle, rhizoma, desoma. Every life is an opportunity to do things different, or can be when we understand, or we enjoy each opportunity that we have in this way. We do not change ourselves much from one life to another one, but facing similar problems, or similar conditions or situations, we can react in a different way, because most times we are resonating with consciousnesses that we had a relationship before. Sometimes to have an opportunity to do a reconciliation, for example. So when we are more lucid, we can enjoy or take advantage of this condition, or of this opportunity. So we can have a different behavior that's more evolutive or cosmoetic. For example, enjoying a life, an intraphysical life, because we are now here, transforming an anachronistic attachment in a healthy affection. It is a way to promote health and lucid detachment in the future. Understanding losses as opportunities to learnings. Instead of regretting the loss, we can ask, what can I learn from this situation? For example, the person who has lost his job, what other possibilities are there? What other skills do I have that I have not put into practice yet? Can I do something more productive, or in terms of evolution, or in relation to my praxis? Perhaps it's the time to let go what I was doing before and make some course correction, for example. Interassistance is directly connected with knowing how to let go, or transforming loss into an evolutionary opportunity. For example, the desoma of someone close. Perhaps it was a desoma which there was an opportunity to reconcile, and in these cases, detachment. It could be a desoma, perhaps, which there was an opportunity to reconcile. And in these cases, detachment can be easier, because it was an opportunity to an adjustment, understanding reconciliation here as a form of interassistance. But perhaps there was not, that the soma was sudden or unexpected, but interassistance can also be promoted through docility. or externalization of good and healthy energies to the person, even if he or she is already in an extraphysical dimension. And we can analyze, making some questions, for example, what I have learned with this person, or what this person has touched to me. Recycling, changing postures, behaviors, self-beliefs, values, living stagnant or anachronistic conditions, or irrational, immature, emotional attachments. So the proposal is to be open to the new, promoting the necessary and intelligent or constructive detachments. Okay. Here we have short orthodoxine from Professor Waldo Vieira, but great in the content. Losses teach. But of course, if we are open to learn with them. The next one. In this slide, we are talking about lucid detachment. Cosmoethical choices. What we are proposing here. To understand detachment as a choice, as a positioning, as a decision, considering self and hetero respect for the multi-existential and multi-dimensional evolutionary process of a consciousness in relation to their evolutionary flow that we cannot control, or we cannot know exactly what is the better for them, what is the better for everyone. Sometimes it is also a condition that maybe it's interesting to mention. Sometimes people need to confront situations that are part of their learnings in order to evolve or to learn something, to change something, even though it seems not like this. For example, an illness that brings some suffering or some limitations, but in other hand, it could be an opportunity to the person to learn something with. And we don't have the control of it. Here we mention some anachronistic postures to be recycled. Also, the idea is to go from a position to another one. It means to replace, yeah? So, self-victimization to self-responsibility. Instead of placing oneself as a victim, remembering that in the multi-existential context, we don't relate to people at random. The bonds that are being formed or constituted have a reason to be. So instead of being a victim, assuming the responsibility that belongs to us, and try to do something to help. For example, a person susceptible to hurt, as Luisa asked before, who doesn't want to detach from this emotion and assume his or her responsibility in the context. They prefer to maintain the pseudo gains, being a victim, claiming for attention, or blaming someone or something for the problem or the situation they are in, than assuming their responsibility. So it's important to be aware of this and to see the situation in a broadened way or view. From charge to donation. Instead of charging, donate. For example, the person who lost someone and develops anger or dissatisfaction as a reaction to the loss, charging the universe for the absence of the other. The most evolutionary posture is to comprehend the situation and donate the better the person has, assuming their responsibility, exchanging their learnings, their experiences, trying to promote inter-assistance. From requirement to exemption. Instead of demanding, opt for exemption. For example, detaching from the wish to have control of people or situations, and adopting a more exempt posture, allowing the other to make his or her own choices, avoiding the group karmic interpretation or a possible charge from the other in the future because we made the choice of them, inhibiting them to be autonomous. From justice to understanding. Instead of remaining stuck, attached to the facts of the past or in the past, often feeding the feeling of revenge and supposed justice, detach yourself, assume the self-responsibility, and adopt the posture of understanding the context and the limits of maturity of those involved in the context at the time. From hurt to forgiveness. Instead of maintaining and sustaining the heart, work for the forgiveness of all. Let go of the feeling of hurt, resentment. Many times the person thinks that maintaining this emotion will do justice to the offended and does not want to let it go. Therefore, as we said before, broaden the view of that context in considering the paradigm, the consensual paradigm, and the pillars, for example, that we have talked before, and leave complaints behind and move on to inter-assistance, helping to improve in the best way you can. Going from yourself to the other, developing empathy, or from selfishness to altruism. Detaching yourself from your ego in the sense of attending egoistic desire or expectations. And also energetic de-assimilation. Being attentive to the energetic process. So as we mentioned, the intrusion process and the assimilation of pathological energies that if you are not aware or lucid enough, we can assimilate this kind of energies, and we don't know how to de-assimilate. There is techniques that we can use to do this also in this energetic process. So making this kind of energetic exercise, we can help. This technique can help us to promote this the assimilation, not keeping the anachronistic attachment activated. Yeah. The next one. Here we have the conscientiotherapy. So you have, oh, okay, congratulate from Ludmila. Congratulations for the lecture. Can you please expand the relationship between lucid detachment and energetic de-assimilation? Okay, if you still have some doubts, please, let me know that I can explain better. Yeah. Could you comment the paradoxal that no one loses anyone, but if we miss evolutionary opportunities, we may lose important evolutionary companies? Okay, I think that is interesting also to mention. Of course, if we have an affection with someone, when we separate, when we lose this consciousness, of course we will miss the company or the presence of this consciousness. But one thing is missing the consciousness. Another point is when I suffer because of this separation. Yeah. So missing the person it's normal, but if I suffer, if I evocate this person, if I or evocate because I need this person to feel my needness, to fulfill my needness. So I need to analyze what is the level of pathology of this relationship or this connection. Okay. Going ahead. Here we have the self-conscientiotherapy cycle. It helps us to move from an anachronistic attachment to a healthy affection, as I said before. So the self-conscientiotherapy cycle comprises the following stages: self-investigation, self-diagnosis, self-confrontation, and self-overcoming. Self-investigation is the first process. Maybe sometimes it could be that they happen simultaneous. Self-investigation is the first stage when the consciousness investigates, analyzes, observes their traits, behaviors, actions, reactions, in order to identify and name some diagnosis. When the person knows what is their problems, they can plan, they can prescribe some techniques to apply or some actions to put in practice. And doing the self-confrontation, the person can overcome or attenuate or eliminate these anti-evolutionary traits, behaviors, or conditions, postures. Yeah, and this process brings more self-confidence and the sense of doing the right thing that we can do at the moment, in according to our maturity, and we can gain energy to restart the process or the self-conscientiotherapy cycle. The next one, we have some techniques that we can use to apply in the stages. I will only mention quickly because we are almost in the end of the lecture. Self-investigation, we can use a holosomatic checkup technique when we can check our whole holosoma. Malaise confrontation technique, it's the identification of unpleasantness, discomfort, annoyance, that we can establish the main area, problem area, that we should work or treat in the self-conscientiotherapy. Perception of justification technique, it's the identification of expressions that we generally used in justifications, but however would have been done if, for example, as I mentioned before, a person attached to the past in which she felt hurt and maintains the feeling of resentment. She wants to detach, but thinks that if someone has acted very badly with her, the person must be held responsible for. So this technique helps to confront the situation and analyzing and assume their responsibility. Yeah. So the next one, self-diagnosis, pseudo-games identification technique. It's the person does a rational list of the gains and losses from a situation of the evolutionary point of view. It helps to identify the pseudo gains the person has in maintaining some behaviors, traits, or conditions which are in fact anti-evolutionary or anti-cosmoetic. Personal value listen technique. The person makes a list of personal values which are evolutionary, or the list of their evolutionary priorities. Intention qualification technique. The person makes 3 questions. For example, why am I maintaining this attachment? For what? For whom? The next one. Self-confrontation, vibrational state technique. It's the technique that we can use, for example, to de-assimilate the energies. Self-conscientiotherapy, neo-conception technique, focusing on the desired new homeostatic ego, which the person wishes to manifest from now on. Mental screen technique, it's an evocation technique, but in a positive way. The consciousness visualizes in their mental screen conscience or consciences, also situations, and assisting them by means of the healthy docenity and energies aiming group karmic reconciliation with the intention to forgiveness, for example. The next one, self-overcoming, listed of practical, clear, and measurable parameters of the process of overcoming the illness that the consciousness had identified. Please. Here we have some information about OIC is a consensus-centric institution, non-profit, based on volunteer work, parascientific and non-political, specialized in conscientiotherapeutics, and it was founded in 2003. The next one, OIC offers online activities. The consultations or appointments can be scheduled on the website or through email, for example, for the schedule team, if someone has interest in consultations, in online activities. The next one. We have also the English website where you can find some information about OIC and about the activities that we are offering at the time. And the next one, here we have some conscientiotherapists in Foz do Iguaçu. OIC has also offices in São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, where you can do presential, you can have presential appointments. And so feel free to contact us. And we are finishing the lecture now. And I'd like to thank you all for the participation and also for the questions. And we will see you soon.